Are you a technician who wants to set yourself apart? Then the Trusted Technician podcast is for you. I'm Derek Hoferter, coach and trainer at SBE. And on this podcast, we will have experienced HVAC coaches and trainers, as well as top performing technicians, all sharing their tips and strategies to help you be more successful. Welcome back to another episode of the Trusted Technician podcast. This is Coach Derek at SBE. And for today's guest, we have Matt from Patrick Riley in Phoenix, Arizona. Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Really appreciate you joining us. You had a great year for 2023, and so we wanted to talk about it a little bit. Just to give everyone some context, Matt, you finished 16th in our rankings. You did a little over 1.3, but there's a little bit of like an asterisk next to that because you only started tracking in May, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so you did 1.3 million just from May through the end of the year. So you had a really good year. Just to get started, why did you become an HVAC technician?
Well, I think it goes back to just how I grew up. My dad was an electrician, and I used to ride in the van with him all the time. And I just kind of grew up around trade work, and it just happened that way. And then learning about the heating and cooling side versus, maybe a car mechanic or electrician, plumber. I knew I didn't want to be a plumber, but just looking at everything, HVAC seemed the most interesting for whatever reason.
Okay. And how long have you been an HVAC tech for?
9 years.
Okay. 9 years. What are your favorite things about this career?
I would say it's never cut and dry. There's no cookie cutter days.
Yeah.
You never know what's happening. It's wake up, you go do what you need to do, and every day is going to be different than the one before.
Absolutely. What do you find to be the most challenging thing about being an HVAC technician?
The weather.
Especially in Phoenix.
Yeah. I mean, when it's miserable, that's the best time of year for me. So if the weather's nice, I can't live there. So I got to be where it's miserable.
Yeah. It's pretty miserable the middle of July in Phoenix, up in an attic.
It gets pretty rough.
Yeah, it gets pretty rough. So you, like you said, you did a lot of revenue. You had a great year. It sounds like, one of your best years ever of efficiency and production as being a tech. And again, that you just joined kind of in the program in May. So that tracking point wasn't even for a full year. Tell me a little bit about kind of like your philosophy of being a technician, and like when you're going out to somebody's house, what's sort of your philosophy about how you're going to interact with them?
Well, I think the benefit of having a solid process is that it helps eliminate guesswork of how you need to interact with a certain customer. The customer is going to provide you with who they are as a person and what kind of service they're expected to see or whatever they're wanting out of the service call. And your job is to follow the trusted advisor process and answer all the questions. Like it eliminates having to figure out, okay, what am I going to do on this job? How am I going to act with this person versus how I acted with this person? If you can just maintain consistency, I think that's kind of the best thing.
I really like that answer about taking the guesswork out of things. So I don't know if, you said you've been doing this for 9 years. Were there time periods where you didn't have that type of a process and it was more guesswork for you?
Absolutely. Trusted advisor or having any sort of process or people skills or anything didn't come into my career until I'd say 4 years ago. And before that, it was insanity.
A little chaos going on there.
It was just chaotic.
Yeah, but because there's like two worlds, right? You've got your mechanical world, which is probably not as chaotic, right? It's sort of like systems are relatively similar, especially in residential. A lot of the issues are similar, but then we've got the people world, and people are chaotic. So that process helped for you. It helped bring a little bit more. What word do you want to use? Like control over the scenario, or like clarity over the scenario with people?
I'd say clarity would be better because honestly, like for the most part, you're letting them control what they think they're controlling. I mean, you're going to do the same thing every time. And they're just like, oh, yeah, that's what I wanted him to do. That's perfect. So everyone has a little bit of control in the call because you know where it's going and each step in your process, and the customer knows what they're expecting. So it's just, I feel like it's a win-win for the customer receiving the service that they were expecting, or that they weren't expecting, but they were happy to have. And you get to deliver your service without a shadow of a doubt of what you need to do. And it just works out for everyone.
Yeah. So would you say that on like the flip side, you know, for a lot of technicians listen to this who may be thinking, I don't know what that would feel like, to have all that clarity. Like, do you feel like that's kind of one of the biggest issues of why many technicians struggle, is every house they're just kind of gambling, or kind of like it's just guesswork, they're just not consistent? What would you say that's the issue?
Consistency in your process is what will deliver consistent numbers. So like, let's say even you've heard of the trusted advisor process, maybe you went to a class or two on it, and now your business is wanting to incorporate it, whatever the case may be, and you're new to it, instead of just knocking on the door and rolling the dice, now they want you to try this process. So you try it and it doesn't work because, for one, you might be new to it and you're a little robotic about it. So then it actually starts doing bad stuff for you.
Mm.
And I feel like that is where anyone's process most likely gets abandoned.
The lack of the
Yeah,
immediate results from
so
it.
I honestly can't remember where this term came from, but it's called the Valley of Woe. And it has to do with someone's progress over time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking at a graph and you've got time and effort, you want to see this, right? You want to see equal amount of time equals equal amount of benefits for your effort of what you're doing. You want to see, okay, I tried it, it worked a little bit. I tried it a little more, it worked even better. But what'll end up happening is you're going to try really hard and you're not going to see benefits for a long time. It's going to be level. And then eventually, as everything comes together and it clicks in your brain and you make it your own, then it takes off. But the
Yeah.
difference between the slope and the straight line that you want to see, this area, that's the Valley of Woe. That's
The Valley of Woe. Yeah.
that's
That's
where
that's tough though, right? Because if you're currently feeling like you're doing something that's not working, or maybe not giving you what was promised,
Mhm.
maybe, how do you mentally stick with that in that Valley of Woe?
It's just the proof and the knowledge that you know you're doing what's right. It's like with working out and eating right, you're not going to start shredding pounds right away, but you know if you continue to do it, you'll meet your goals if that's where if that's where your head's at. And for technicians getting into the business, the proof is with more seasoned technicians who they can see, and the seasoned technicians are telling you, do the process, it works, stick with it, you'll eventually get there. So sticking with it is hard, especially in a business where you're not getting paid an hourly rate and you're betting everything you have.
Yeah.
So it's rough.
Yeah. How long do you feel like you spent in the Valley of Woe until you really felt like it started to, okay, this is paying off, like this is elevating me?
Probably 6 months to a year.
That's a long time, right? To go through that.
Yeah. So, I mean, if it was like, if we go back through my revenue and income since I started. So I started Patrick Riley 2019, and about halfway through 2019, Corey wants to develop this trusted advisor process. So he brings in a handful of guys, me, a couple of guys from George Brazil, and I think one other guy from Patrick Riley. And the purpose we were brought in wasn't because we were the best. It was because we were malleable. Corey believed that the people he was bringing in would listen to what he's going to say and actually try it. Because if you bring in the seasoned guys and you're like, hey, I want to change your entire process, let's see how it works,
Yeah.
it's just not going to go well. So he brings us in, we try it out, and it was really rough. But the main thing I think that helped us push it forward would be that we could all see the benefit for the customer while we were in there. And he's talking about how we're going to take our 25-minute tune-up and work on this system for an hour and a half.
Mm.
What we're going to do and how we're going to do it and how we're going to present these things to the customer. And Corey's position on it the whole time was, can you see how the customer would appreciate this versus this? You know, you go out there and you perform work and you show the customer you're on their side and you're here to actually make their system work better, not just check parts and move equipment. So
Yeah.
you take the one side of that coin where you show up at a customer's house, you disappear for 30 minutes, and then you come back with a bill and try to explain it to them in a really fast-paced scenario. Hopefully they say yes, hopefully they don't. Either way, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
You can show up and give them huge benefit of having their system cleaned out and taken care of, and maybe do, you know, something like if you see a burnt wire, cut it out, put in a new one. Takes you 5 seconds. Just show the customer, hey, this could have been a real problem, but I went ahead and just took that out of there. I'm already here. Didn't take me any time at all.
Yeah.
And you're showing benefit that you actually don't want their system to break. You are there to try and fix it. And knowing that my customers would benefit from it and that I would benefit from it because I have customers who appreciate my work, I knew it was going to work out. I knew there was no way that this would fail. So I just had to stick with it. And then I slowly saw my maintenance averages going from 118 to $100 up to 500, 600, 1,400 the year after. And you can see average tickets moving up because you're slowing down. I'm running less calls, but I made more money because I'm able to take care of my customers while I'm there and focus on what I'm doing.
I really like what you're saying, and sort of what I'm hearing from you is what got you through that valley of woe is that you really understood the why behind why you were making these changes.
Yeah.
Right? Like the why appealed to you. The why was strong and clear.
Understand where you want to land, and having a real purpose for it is what gets you through.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit too about, like, if you are going to do this kind of let's throw out what we were doing before, let's replace it with a new process. You can't really, though, just pick and choose certain things from it, right? That's not a process. That's cherry picking. The reason why the trusted advisor works is because A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z,
Yeah.
right? Every little piece is just as important as the other pieces.
Yeah. There are some aspects of it where technicians can go, oh, well, that's really powerful. I'll make sure I do that. And then the aspect of wearing shoe covers might not seem as powerful. So they're like, I'll take that out. Not everybody needs that, you
Right.
know, but it diminishes yourself. You've taken the 3 plus 2 that is, and now you've taken away the 2, and you just have 3. So I'm not going to pretend like there are some aspects of the trust advisor process that are more powerful, because there are certain wow factors for the customer, but it all goes together.
Yeah.
And that's what really delivers what you want. Because if you're all just show with no consideration, because I think that's kind of the two parts of it, is that there's show, like you can dazzle the customer with what you're doing, but you also have to have consideration on the backside where they see you putting your shoe covers on, wiping the wall after you put your smudgy hand up against the thermostat. You know, stuff like that, where you're able to deliver both sides of it, is how you get the trusted advisor goal in their head.
Yeah. When you were learning the process and adopting it, were there any parts of it where you were like, I don't know about that. That makes me uncomfortable.
Yes.
Like what?
So I was always one to never question a customer's objections.
Mm.
It made me extremely uncomfortable if a customer is flat out saying, now's not the time, I don't have the money, I don't want to. It's
Yeah.
just those random things. And I would immediately shut down and say, okay, I'm sorry I wasted your time, or
Yeah.
something along those lines, and just let me pack up my tools. I'll get out of your hair. But part of the process where you can reverse question and stuff like that, it gave me a little bit of hope just to ask one more question. Well, what do you mean you just don't want to? Like, just something, just to further that conversation, to really uncover why they're telling me what they're telling me. And that has led to more success than I care to admit. It was something that I was 100% against. I was like, there's no way I will ever do that. And it actually happened because I was in a ride along with one of our CE team representatives, riding along with me in a call, and customer said, that's too expensive, or, whatever the case may be. And there I go. I was ready. Okay, let me pack it up. And I start like literally moving away. And then it was actually Mike Walkemeyer. And he just asked one more question. And I froze. I was like, you did not just do that on my call. Like,
Yes.
This is my job. You don't talk. Like, I was so mad and so concerned that he just like ruined
it. Yeah. 1-star review, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just like completely trashed the whole relationship I was trying to build.
Yeah.
But that's the part I didn't realize, is that I had built a relationship and I had become the trusted advisor. So it earns me the right to ask questions. Okay. And so he asked one little simple question. And it was just because it happened to be that the customer was just confused about what exactly we were doing. And he was like, it just didn't make sense to me. And he goes, oh, well, it's like, and he just explained it a little bit. And he's like, oh, well, yeah, let's do that. And it was just so simple. And everyone walked away happy. And I bought Mike lunch because
Well, not only did he like make an outcome from the call, right? But he taught you a lesson too, right?
And ever since then, I've been able to just realize that I'm not there to just listen to them. I'm there for them so they can listen to me also. They are not experts in what I'm talking about. I am. So I can understand that sometimes it's just misunderstanding. Sometimes something wasn't communicated properly to where that specific customer was able to understand it. If you've got a certain way of explaining why something needs to be cleaned or replaced, and it's just your bulletproof explanation for everybody, it's not going to work for it. People understand things different.
Yeah, that's so good. Everyone listening needs to take note about that. There's so many things you said, right? Of one, like, it's normal to have some objections to a new process and to be uncomfortable about things. But again, I think coming back to that bigger of why, understanding what we're trying to accomplish. It's not about making you uncomfortable as the tech. It's about what the homeowner is getting out of the process, right? And so there might be some things you just have to try, right? Go for it. One of the last things I want to talk with you, because I need to let you go soon here, is what do you do for like practice or preparation? Because obviously, you have calls that you can go run, but you probably don't want to like always be using your calls as your practice ground. So just overall, how do you prep and practice?
I would say your other technicians are probably your biggest ally. As long as they're in the right headspace and in the same mindset that you are, other technicians who are just not enjoying the process and, having a rough time with it, that's not always the way to go. They have training built into the business. Like we have training all the time. I actually just got done with some last week where I spent a whole day at the office doing a trusted advisor process in our mock house. But I'm on the phone with Curtis, I'd say in the summertime, probably 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
Throughout my day, just talking with him about the job I was just on. Why did it sell? Why did it not sell? Where did I lose this customer? Constantly grading yourself on the jobs you just ran and are like on your way to run the next one. That's how you can better yourself. You can continually grow and bounce ideas off of someone else who's doing the same thing. I mean, it might not be a technician for everybody. That's just typically who's available. You've got your managers, but they're in charge of other technicians, not just you. You can't call them during every call, after every call, and before every call, you know? And so having someone who's in it with you and is able to communicate and help you, like I just had it the other day where Curtis basically told me to get my head out of my butt because I was having all these limiting beliefs going into this call. And he was like, Matt, that's just the stupidest thing you've ever said. Like, just like, what you're telling me is dumb. And you're just waiting for me to tell you that I think it's dumb. Just, getting out of your own way and making sure that you're always trying to fix what's wrong. And I think the biggest part is that people won't debrief on their wins, because I'm not going to say every win that I have with a customer is something only I could have done. No other technician could have closed that. There are some that are complete layups.
Sure.
And so I think it's really important to debrief every single call and write them down. So like if you're looking at your calls at the end of the month where you notate everything and you've got like 60% of your jobs are saying no because it's too expensive, I can see where my problem is. I'm playing too much on logic, not enough on emotion. I'm not building value enough because I have way too many people telling me I'm too expensive when it's not the case. They're telling me to get out of their house because they don't appreciate what I've done so far.
Wow. Yeah.
They don't think what I'm requesting or recommending is worth the price tag that it's attached to. And that's my fault. It's not the business's fault because they're trying to stay in business and charge prices that they need to. It's my fault for not representing properly or not right now. Now you haven't created an urgency in a sense to where the customer knows that this is a legitimate problem. I'm not presenting this to you to say, yeah, maybe, these are legitimate problems. So when you're debriefing your no's and your wins, it gives you so much valuable information about yourself. Because the trusted advisor process is an amazing blueprint, but it's going to look different per technician just because of different personalities. The best information you can have is the information about yourself.
That's so good. So you got to be proactive, right? You can't wait. Because, you mentioned everyone's got managers that they could turn to, but a lot of times the managers are spending a lot of their times with the people most struggling, right? So if you're already kind of doing well, but you have that continuous growth mindset, continuous improvement, you're going to need to be proactive, right? And find ways to make it happen yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. Matt, I feel like we could keep talking for a long time, but we gotta end. We fulfilled our time together. We gotta wrap it up. So Matt, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Trusted Technician Podcast. If you would like to learn more about SBE, you can find us online at sbeodyssey.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, we would appreciate it if you would leave us a review. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.